And welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Book. She's a bit off centre, move around a bit. How are you all? Happy July. Bloody July. This year has gone fast, hasn't it? I tell you what, I've been having, I would say, one of my best reading years yet. I have read banger after banger this year. I've been having a really, really good reading year. And hopefully July will continue to live up to that. So I've got some books to show you of the books that I plan to read in the month of July. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Will she get to them all? Probably not. Will she give it a good go? Probably yes. We'll start with the books that I sort of, I'd say have to read, but like it's already been ordained that I shall read them. So the first one, I'm really, really excited about this. Really excited. And that's my Patreon book club book that I'm going to be reading this month, which is The Light Years by Elizabeth Jane Howard. David's mum bought me the first and second in this Cloudesley Chronicles series, and then I bought the third and fourth from the charity shop. But the theme for our July book club is long books, because it's summer and maybe more people are on their summer holidays, or the nights are a bit longer, so they might be sitting out in their garden having a little read. For the last few years, we've tended to read a long book in July, and this is a long book. It is 554 pages, and it's set in the summer, so it's sort of perfect summer reading, and it's about the Cloudesley brothers, Hugh, Edward and Rupert, returning to the family home in the heart of Sussex, and they bring their wives and children with them. They're joined by their parents and their unmarried sister Rachel, and enjoy 2 glorious months of picnics, games and sun-drenched excursions to the coast. But not even this idyllic setting can soothe the siblings' fear and heartache. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it, and I love getting sort of like immersed in a book, and I'm really hoping that this is something that I'm going to read and love, because like I said, I've got the next 4 lined up ready to go. So yes, very, very excited to read this. I think normally I tend to read them, the Patreon book club books, a bit towards the end of the month, but because this is such a chunky one, I think I might start it early doors. I might. Oh, I'm so excited to read it. I'm so excited. And then next up is the book that won the first line battle. I've been a bit lackadaisical. Oh yeah, she used the word lackadaisical, in reading the books that are winning the first line battle. So I do these videos every month where I take the first book of each colour. So I start with the reds, move on to the oranges, yellows, greens, etc., and read the first line from a book and battle them against each other. This is the one that won last month. So the book, and the prize is that I will add them to my TBR for next month, but I don't think I've read the last 2, so I need to really make an effort to read this one. So this is the second sight of Zachary Cloudesley by Sean Lusk. I saw this being discussed on Between the Covers, the Sarah Cox show on BBC Two, and then when I was on Philippa's podcast for my Christmas episode, which I've done for the past 2 years, to say thank you, she sent me a couple of books, and this was one of them. So I was delighted to receive it after I had been so excited. So the winning line was Chapter 1, March 1754, London, Life and Death. Leadenhall stinks this morning of shit and soot, and inexplicably of nutmeg. And it was that won, because I was like, well, why is it smelling of nutmeg? Sure, shit and soot in London in 1754, but nutmeg. So that's how it ended up winning. So those are the 2 books. Then I've got, let's move on here. I've separated them into 4 piles. The next pile is entitled books that haven't come out yet, although one of them has literally just come out. So I've got a few proofs here. The first one is Emma Donoghue's new book, which comes out in August. This is Learned by Heart, and it's a novel based on the lives of Anne Lister and her first love, Eliza Rain. Now, it came so beautifully, like in this beautiful proof, which has got a little eye, and you open it up. Oh yes, oh lovely. However, I think this is going to be a bit difficult to read. So this might be the last time you see this beautiful front cover and this beautiful bit here, because I might have to chop them off. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I have a real hit and miss with Emma Donoghue. Some stuff I absolutely love, and some stuff I've ended up DNFing. So hopefully this will be something that I absolutely love. But yeah, it sounds great. Set in 1805 when 2 14-year-old girls meet. And yeah, love ensues. So there we go, that's that one. Then I've got another one which is out in October 2023. I'm not even sure I've hauled this yet. But this is Everything Is Not Enough by Lola Akinmade Akastrom, and this is, it sounds brilliant. It's also been blurred by Taylor Jenkins Reid on the front. So it says here, let me read the blurb. So It's a second novel from this author. It follows, because she's the author of In Every Mirror She's Black. This follows 3 women as they try to navigate life, love, prejudice and privilege in Stockholm. So the 3 women are Yasmin, who cannot comprehend what the policeman is saying to her. Her friend in a coma attempted suicide. Discovering she's listed as next of kin, Yasmin looks to her friend's past to try to understand her actions, uncovering fresh mysteries at every turn. All the while, her own life seems to be running off course. Then we've got Kemi, who seems to have it all, a high-powered job, a beautiful flat, a loving boyfriend, so why doesn't she feel more settled? Unsure whether it's homesickness, heart sickness, or sick and tired of the same old sickness, she embarks on a destructive path to try and change things up. And then we've got Brittany Ray, who doesn't remember the woman she was before she met her husband. She knows she was an ambitious, confident go-getter, but now she's faded into his domineering shadow. As she unearths disturbing secrets about him, Brittany Ray is focused on one thing only, getting their daughter Maya as far away as possible. As the 3 women's lives begin to overlap in the most unexpected of circumstances, is it possible that the answers to their problems lie in one another's hands? Sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah, it's out on the 26th of October. Also sent me the cutest little press pack with it, which I don't often get anymore, so I was really pleased to get it. And it had some, because it's set in Stockholm, it had some Swedish chocolate and then some makeup from a Swedish brand as well. Some lip gloss that I've been wearing, I haven't got it on today, and some amazing eyeshadow. So yeah, very excited to get around to that. I think that might be one I get picking up straight away. And then lastly was a book, not lastly because I've still got books, but lastly from the sort of new to us books is this one, which is The Other Side of Mrs. Wood by Lucy Barker. This has just come out, so this came out on the 22nd of June. So this is new, but I really like this front cover. Let me read you the blurb. So here we go. And it's a historical comedy, it says, the irresistible debut historical comedy. Mrs. Wood is London's most celebrated medium. She's managed to survive decades in the competitive world of contacting the other side, has avoided the dreaded slips that revealed others as frauds, and is hosting packed-out seances for Victorian high society. Yet some of her patrons have recently cancelled their appointments. There are reports of American mediums nearly materialising full spirits, and audiences are no longer satisfied with the knocking on tables and candle theatrics of years gone by. And then, at one of Mrs. Wood's routine gatherings, she hears something terrifying, faint but unmistakable. A yawn. Mrs. Wood needs to spice up her brand. She decides to take on Emmy, a young protege, to save her show. But is Emmy Finch the naive ingenue she seems to be? Or does she pose more of a threat to Mrs. Wood's reign, and even more horrifyingly, her reputation that Mrs. Wood can ever have imagined? Sounds really fun, doesn't it? It sounds a bit Sarah Watersy, actually. I want your reputation, the girl said to Mrs. Wood. I want everything you have. And I love this proof copy. But that sort of like flame with the eyes in it, and then underneath this, yeah. I think that's going to be a good one. And then I've got some, right, so then we've got, there's 3 more piles really, because I've got books that have been languishing on my shelves, new to me books that I want to read, and then some hangovers from my honeymoon. So let's do the languishers. The languishers are books that, well, first of all, I've got Ghosts by Dolly Alderton, which I pre-ordered last year from Foyles and ended up getting a signed copy. However, I still haven't read it. So I read like a few little romance books and women's contemporary fiction books on my honeymoon, and I was thinking maybe I will just read this as well. So this is about Nina Dean. She's arrived at her early 30s as a successful food writer with a loving friends and family, plus a new home and neighbourhood. When she meets Max, a beguiling romantic hero who tells her on a date one that he's going to marry her, it feels like it's all going to plan. A new relationship couldn't have come at a better time. Her 30s have not been the liberating, uncomplicated experience she was sold. Everywhere she turns, she's reminded of time passing and opportunity dwindling. Friendships are fading, ex-boyfriends are moving on, and worse, everyone's moving to the suburbs. There's no solace to be found in her family, with a mum who's caught in a baffling midlife makeover and a beloved dad who's vanishing in slow motion into dementia. This is Dolly Alderton's debut novel, so yeah, hopefully I will enjoy that. I need to ask my sister-in-law if she's read that as well, because she loves Dolly Alderton. And then I've got Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. This has appeared on my last 2 TBRs. I've borrowed it from my friend Emma. It's Fern Brady, who is a Scottish comedian. It's her memoir, and it sounds amazing. It sounds hilarious and heartbreaking and real and raw, and I really want to read it, but I keep putting it off. And this month, July, is going to be the month that I do it. And then I've also got Becky, which was sent to me, the proof was sent to me last year. This came out in January this year. And this says Succession meets Vanity Fair. I've got a massive Succession-shaped hole in my life at the moment because it's finished forever. And I want to read this very much. Now, I also have a reservation on the audiobook of this on Libby. So I might get around to listening to it, but whatever happens, I will either read it or listen to it this month. I think it sounds great. So it's set in the 90s, and Becky is based on a real person called Rebecca. I can't remember her name. She was sort of like running a lot of dodgy like situations in terms of the press. So it said it's peak 90s tabloid era. Shoulder pads are out, crimped hair is in, supermodels are known by their first names, and Becky Sharp will do anything to escape her past. From mingling with tabloid millionaires and trading favours and fortunes with royalty, she will stop at nothing to reach the top of the career ladder at the Mercury newspaper, as she ruthlessly carves a place for herself in society determined to ignore her. These are the biggest stories and scandals of the decade, and Becky has something to do with every one of them. But Becky may have more in common with the people than she writes about than she thinks, which takes a lifetime to build. What takes a lifetime to build only takes a moment to destroy. So it said this is a viciously funny, darkly entertaining and ultimately moving rise and fall of a very modern heroine. So yeah, like I said, I may well be listening to the audiobook of that, but this is one that every time I see it, I was actually considering taking it on my honeymoon with me, but there we go. Then we've got new to me books. So these are some that you may well have seen feature recently. So for example, these two featured in my Cozy Reading Night TBR video, where I went to visit the Little Green Bookshop in Herne Bay. I went to I worked in conjunction with Independent Bookshop Week, and yeah, I went to an independent bookshop and bought these two as well as other books, Yellowface being one of them, which I've already read. But these both seem great. This one is actually called Summer, so should be read in summer, by Edith Wharton. It doesn't have a blurb, but the first line got me really, really into it. I'll read you out the first line. I'll read you out the first few lines because that's where it gets summery, although this is set in June, so I should have read it in June really. A girl came out of Lawyer Royal's house. At the end of the one... Let's start again. A girl came out of Lawyer Royal's house at the end of the one street of North Dormer and stood on the doorstep. It was the beginning of a June afternoon. The spring-like transparent sky shed a rain of silver sunshine on the roofs of the village and on the pastures and larchwoods surrounding it. A little wind moved around the round white clouds on the shoulders of the hills, driving their shadows across the fields and down the grassy road that takes the name of the street that passes through North Dormer. There we go. So I was very into that and thought it sounded very summery. So shall be reading this book in summer. And then I also bought the Three Dahlias by Katie Watson, which is a sort of cosy crime novel about three women who've played the character Dahlia Lively throughout the decades. Dahlia Lively is a fictitious character created by, what's her name? Lettice Davenport, who is a little like an Agatha Christie character, so I guess you could think of Dahlia Lively as a sort of Miss Marple-like character. And yeah, there are VIP, like fans who've come along to this event where the three people who have played Dahlia Lively over since the 1930s when she was created, and yeah, it sounds as though it's really, really fun. So yeah, although it says, I think cozy crime's been used to describe it, but it says each actress has her own interpretation of the character and her own secrets to hide, but this English summer weekend, perfect again, they will have to put aside their differences as the crimes at Aldermere turn anything but cosy. Then I've also got a collection of poetry, a new collection of Black British poetry by K.O. Well, it's edited by K.O. Chingonyi. This was said to be by Canongate. And yeah, I always like to have a little poetry collection on the go, and thought this would be a great one to read. I had a little flick through it when I first, I think I might have hauled this one. I had a little flick through it when I first got it. And then I've got one that I bought, I bought when I went to Waterstones when David and I were spending a book voucher that we got given for as a wedding present. And I bought Sunny by Suk Ojla, and this is actually a love story, just not the one Sunny was looking for, and I thought this sounded very fun to read, but I didn't end up taking it with me because I whittled 15 books down to 10. So it says, meet Sunny. To her friends, she's eternally upbeat, always on hand with hilarious and horrifying date stories, but they're all settling down with partners and mortgages, and Sunny is back in her childhood bedroom at 30. She plays the role of a perfect daughter, watching the Sikh channel, making saag and samosa with her mum, while also hiding gins in tins in her underwear drawer and sneaking home in the middle of the night after dates. She juggles her double life perfectly, on the outside at least, but when her mum sees a guy dropping Sunny home one evening, everything gets a little complicated. Now her mum wants to know about the life Sunny has kept secret from her for so long. Sunny is used to lying to her friends, her family, and above all herself, but is it finally time to start being honest? I think that sounds great. And then this is another one that I had considered for my honeymoon and then didn't take away, and sort of regret it. But this is set in the summer as well. So one summer following the Second World War, Robert Appleyard should say, it's The Offing by Benjamin Myers. One summer following the Second World War, Robert Appleyard sets out on foot from his Durham village. 16 and the son of a coal miner, he makes his way across the northern countryside until he reaches the former smuggling village of Robin Hood's Bay. There he meets Dulcie, an eccentric, worldly, older woman who lives in a ramshackle cottage facing out to sea, and she introduces him to the pleasures of rich food, sea swimming, sunburn and poetry. The two come from different worlds, yet as the summer months pass, they form an unlikely friendship that will profoundly alter their lives. And then the last couple of books are books that I took on my honeymoon with me and then didn't get around to finishing. So I've mentioned these in many videos around this time. But these are two books that I started while I was on honeymoon, and then when I got back, you all right? You're rattling around with keys? Yeah. Oh, was you just checking the post? Yeah. Was there anything exciting in there?
There's nothing in there.
Nothing exciting in the post. What a day.
No treats or anything.
No treats?
No treats.
So yeah, so these are books that I started on my honeymoon, and then when I got home I had a book to read for Patreon Book Club, and then I wanted to read Yellowface, and now I read another book for book club. So these have not been finished, but they will do. First one is A Pocketful of Happiness by Richard E. Grant. This is Richard E. Grant's memoir. It talks mainly about the death of his beloved wife, who they found out she was ill during COVID, and then they had sort of like 9 months with her before she died, and he cared for her at home. And it's told in those in that year, so it starts in January, and each chapter is a month. But it also alludes back to Richard moving to the UK and becoming an actor, and meeting his wife and having his daughter, and all his sort of like stories that he's collected over the years during his acting career. It's very warmly written and I'm enjoying it, so I will look forward to getting back to that. And then I've got Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. Let me also show you this bookmark I bought in Norway because it's embroidered and has the outline of Norway in it. There it is. It's so fun, isn't it? You probably can't see it properly. There it is. But yeah, so I've been reading this. I'm almost like 2/3 of the way through, maybe even 3/4. This is a YA book set sort of in the Middle Ages, and Gwen and Art, these two have been betrothed to one another, but neither of them are romantically interested in that person. Gwen is in love with the only female knight in the kingdom, and Art is maybe entering a relationship with Gwen's brother, Gabriel. So yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's good fun. It's like a laugh, and they're having a good time. So yeah, need to finish that too. So there we go. Those are the books that I plan on reading in the month of July. What are you guys planning on reading in the month of July? Have you read any of these books? Are you excited about anything? What we've got coming up in August, to let you know, is Augusta Christie. So after this month's reading, next month I will be reading purely Agatha Christie books, and books based on Agatha Christie or inspired by. I've got a non-fiction book about Agatha Christie to read. This is something that I've been doing sort of every year, a little reading project where for a month I read a particular thing. So I've done June Austen before and read all Jane Austen books or Jane Austen inspired books. I've done June Eyre, I've done Little Women, and I did Pride and Prejudice. So June Austen was off the back of Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, Augusta Christie. Sounds good fun, doesn't it? So yeah, let me know how you're getting on with all your reading, and I'll see you again soon for another book video. Goodbye!